So I have decided to do a video newsletter for you this morning. And so hopefully you will like this. I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about human nature and the idea that can human nature change? You know, we hear so many times that things will always be this way. It's just human nature. It's the way it's always been. Or even people, can people change? No, they've always been that way, so they're not going to change. Now, as a relationship coach, therapist, I would tell you don't enter a relationship expecting somebody to change if you're not okay with who they are, because we can't control what somebody else chooses to do. So when we enter into a relationship and say, well, they have potential, I would say that's not good. We have to be able to accept people the way they are. And if we can't, then we should move on for their sake and for ours. But I'm talking about the collective, right? In general, can human nature change? Something to think about, right? I believe that we can. I believe that as a whole, we are on this planet to evolve, to grow, and so that there is potential for change. How do we do that? So I want to talk just for a moment about looking at the good and looking at the bad. Sometimes what people want to do is sometimes they only focus on the negative, right? You know, people like that. Everything is negative, whether it's about themselves, it's about their relationships, their job, the world in general. Everything's just, and they can suck the life out of you. They're just so negative. And so what happens is, if you think about the law of attraction, they're creating more and more of that because that's what they're putting out into the world. That's their worldview. That's how they see themselves. That's how they see others. That's how they see life. And then there are people that only want to look at the good, right? Everything's great. You know, I'm only focusing on the parts that I love about myself, or only focusing on the good when it comes to other things. But they're still dealing with the world and life, and there's still things that aren't good, right? They're still bad, but they're shoving that down because they don't want to see it. And so that can have repercussions as well. You know, that's, oh, my partner's perfect. I'm going to ignore the things about them that aren't good, that I don't like. We shove it, we shove it, we shove it. And then what happens? Eventually it explodes. You know, somebody walks out the door, or they're just seemingly over dramatic about something. You're like, whoa, where'd that come from? You know, so we don't want to do either. What I'd like to suggest is that in order to grow as people, in our relationships with ourselves, in relationships with others, to grow as a human being, as a collective humanity even, we have to look at the good and we have to look at the not so good. We have to look at the bad and acknowledge that it exists. So, and be careful though, when we start to look at the negative, the bad, quote unquote bad, that we don't get sucked down in it and we don't stay there. So let me give you an example of that. Let's take relationships, right? Because a lot of you are on this newsletter because I talk about relationships. So with a partner, always there are things that you like about them, and there are things that you don't like so much about them. And there might be phases that you go through where everything's going along and you're really clicking. Things are great, you know, you're grooving, things are really good. And then there might be something that comes up in your life, something comes up in the world lately, right? There's a lot of opportunities for that. Or just I don't know, it's just a time where they're acting in a way that you don't like. And you start to notice more and more those things about them that you don't like. So we can get caught in that. And then we can start to become very unhappy with them. And our relationship starts to suffer. Or we can look and we can say, there's some things I really like those things about you. And right now that's coming out more maybe than it usually does. But on the other hand, there's all these things about you that are good. There's all these things in the past that you have done that have been good. All these ways we've connected. This is a phase, or this is just a part of you, depending on what's going on. And we can look at both and put them in balance. And then we have a choice. Do we need to deal with something new that's come up? Well, let's sit down and talk about that lovingly, kindly, and see what we need to do about that. Can we move beyond it? So the same thing that can happen when we are dealing with a relationship with ourselves. Things can bubble up and be like, oh, I don't like that side of myself, right? So I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to shove it down. It's not a part of me anymore. No, it is. It's always going to be a part of you. It always can bubble to the surface. We can decide what to do with it, though, when it starts to come up. The same thing can happen when we're talking about friendships or, our career. There's going to be that balance. There's going to be the dark and there's going to be the light. So we need to see both of them, acknowledge both of them, and then we can make a choice about what to do. We don't want to get stuck in that negative, right? So it has to start with us. So can we choose? We get to choose our thoughts now that we've acknowledged both. We get to choose where to go from here. We get to choose our thoughts. Those thoughts create our feelings. We get to choose our thoughts. We get to choose our actions. Those thoughts, those actions not only create our feelings and eventually create our beliefs, they also, if you believe in the law of attraction, create what we are creating in our lives moving forward. So when we look at the dark, we acknowledge it, but we choose to move, and we acknowledge that it's there. It's part of us. It's part of the other person. It's part of the career we've chosen, whatever. But then what are we going to do, right? We can choose to be more benevolent. We can choose to be kinder. We can choose to think different. We can choose to feel different. We can choose to act different. That will affect the rest of our lives. We have so much more control than we realize we have by doing that. So what if there's more to human nature than we thought? What if it is changeable? But if it starts with us, not trying to change the other person, not trying to say, no, I'm going to change you. No. What if we change our thoughts, our perspective, our actions, right? Time to explore a new perspective, a new way of thinking, of believing, of acting. All right, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, accepting all of it, and using that to create a better life for yourself, a better relationship with the people that you interact with, a better relationship with your partner, a better relationship with yourself, a better relationship with your career. Food for thought. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and until next time. And if you would like more videos, be sure to connect with me on Facebook. I have a private Facebook group. If you need the name of that, let me know. I have a Facebook professional page that I post videos on. So if you would like more videos more often, join me on Facebook or even on Instagram. Okay. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.